there's a lot of up and coming stuff. It'd be too much to name, honestly. It's like a dozen that I'm very bullish on. But Neuralink might eat everybody's lunch before that, so it doesn't really matter.
Hey everyone, in this episode, I have a conversation with Ladan Jiracek. He's the host of the Implant podcast, and one of the things that I appreciate most about Ladan is his life experiences. He's already traveled to over 100 countries, and he's currently a grad student at the University of Florida. He was also previously an intern at BlackRock Microsystems, and some of you may be familiar with this company because it used to be part of Cyberkinetics, which at the time aspired to do many of the same things that Neuralink is aspiring to do in the next coming years. The Neural Implant podcast's purpose is to bring together the field of neuroprosthetics, brain-machine interfaces, and brain implants in an understandable conversation about the current topics and breakthroughs. He's been doing this podcast for 4 years, and he speaks with many industry experts. So I hope you guys enjoy our casual conversation. So I guess my first question is about your background, and can you talk about your education and then leading up to what you're doing right now as a lab tech at University of Florida?
I'm not a lab tech. I'm a graduate student now. I've moved up in the world. Yeah.
Congratulations. Nice.
Yeah. So I'm a graduate student, and it's a little bit convoluted because I'm a master's student. I already have a master's, but and then I'm going to be moving to a PhD hopefully in December. And it's just been really, really convoluted because at University of Utah, which is where I did my mechanical engineering degree, and then later at TU Dresden in Germany, where I did my nanobiophysics master's, my grades weren't the best. And I lived by the maxim, C's get degrees, which is true. You definitely can get a degree, but if you want to go to graduate school, you need more than C's. But I didn't know I was going to want to go to graduate school. So it kind of, I don't know if it bit me in the ass, but it definitely slowed me down. But at the same time, I think that might have been good because I may have gone, headstrong into the wrong direction. And then, 5 years later down the line, be like, whoops, I don't like doing this.
You've had the pleasure of interviewing so many different people because of the Neural Implant podcast, and you've been doing it for 4 years now?
Yeah, 4 years now.
Okay. And through interviewing all those people, both inside the industry and then also just random people, right, who are kind of knowledgeable or just skeptical about the progress being made, I'm curious what your take is on what companies you believe have the most promise and which ones you think may not have as much promise.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking to you, you're kind of the Neuralink guy, and I really do like Neuralink. I've even this morning, I saw some pieces like, oh, this is never going to work, and all this kind of stuff. A lot of skeptical professors and everything like this. I don't know. I mean, I think it's great. I think they have great technology from the extent that I know, which of course is not perfect. I think they took the best of all worlds and kind of combined it together, and that's kind of what happens when you can throw out $150 million at a team, which no other company or anything else can do. Maybe aside from Medtronic or something like that, but they're not really in the development space, I would say. I mean, other than that, I really do like companies like Paradromics, for example. They have like a 64,000 channel array. It's just like tens of thousands of channels. They do a really good job, but they do have limitations as well. There's other companies, vagus nerve stimulation companies. That's the ones that I really enjoy. Setpoint is something that is more in the bioelectronic medicine field, which is basically bypassing pharmaceuticals and just using the nerves to basically essentially do the role of pharmaceuticals. I think the companies like that is good, but that's been a long time coming, and there's a lot of up and coming stuff. It'd be too much to name, honestly. It's like a dozen that I'm very bullish on. But Neuralink might eat everybody's lunch before that, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it is interesting to see the dynamic of Elon having all this like access to human capital and financial capital, and just like his say goes so far, especially even like on Twitter. Now he has like 50 million followers, and the instant he says anything, like everybody's on it, all the news is covering it, and it's instantaneous. It's very real time when he posts it on Twitter. So it just spreads like wildfire. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, his Dogecoin tweets have made me a lot of money, so that's been good too. I can't complain.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking back at some of the old tweets that Max Hodek tweeted, and I think he has one from either 2014 or 15, maybe 16. And it says like, I think I was one of the first Dogecoin miners. And so I don't know, I just had this like thought in my head is like, oh, well, maybe that's why Elon's been talking about it. It's just to like help out his buddy.
Maybe.
um, okay, so yeah, I'm just like wanting to ask more about where you think the industry is growing. It seems to me like there's this divergence of non-invasive technology and companies that are focused on being non-invasive and they're totally okay with it. And then there are other companies that are focused on invasive approaches. They're willing to, put in all the hard work that's necessary to make that those types of devices. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Like, do you see that divergence continuing, or do you see them eventually kind of coming back together?
No, I think they're very much different things. They're two different beasts, and like you said, the wearable side, the non-invasive side, that is, much lower risk profile. It's much easier. There's no brain surgery involved or whatever. So it's a much easier ask of people. It's like, hey, here's a cool new belt that you can wear, and it solves your Parkinson's or whatever. That's really cool. Versus like, hey, here you go. We're gonna pop open your skull and we're going to dig in this thing really deep in your brain and you'll be fine, we promise. So that's a much different risk profile, and obviously those are much slower to get FDA approval, and the burden of proof is much higher because it's like, well, we are cracking open the skull, so let's see. I mean, we can't just be like, I'm pretty sure it works the way you might be like with a Fitbit, but yeah. So I think it's going to continue like that. They're just so I'm more on the invasive side. I really like the invasive uh, portion of things, uh, and I do work in the design and development of these. So I'm a little bit biased in that, but I think that you just can't beat the resolution, and you can't beat the capability of an invasive implant, and that's something. I mean, I don't think that'll be beat for a long time. So I think they'll be divergent for at least a decade, 2, 3, because you know, again, going back to the wait but why article of basically you're trying to listen in on a stadium and you're trying to triangulate and figure out like which person's talking to who and section 24E of the stadium. You're not going to do that from the outside. You have to go inside to be able to do that, and I think that's like laws of physics, honestly. Unless
Yeah.
we break the laws of physics, which is not impossible. They've already done that with semiconductors. Like they've gotten down below the wavelength of light, and they're writing stuff at this level, which is just like I didn't like. That's literally impossible, but they did it. But you have to throw a lot of money, billions and billions and billions of dollars at it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, okay, so can you explain what you're doing specifically as a grad student?
Yeah, so I'm helping design electrodes, nerve implants, and then verifying them and validating them. And usually, I mean, you kind of design something and then you're like, okay, let's put this in an animal or let's put this in a human or something like this. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to shorten that. We're trying to, develop models, like physical models, like to simulate what it would like be like in the body and even accelerate that. So we could be like, okay, well, we have it a month in our simulation, a month in our test chamber, and that represents a year in the body, something like that. Because the body attacks everything, foreign bodies that are in it, and it doesn't like foreign bodies inside of its body. And so that's what we're doing. And then we want to potentially even go a step further and be like, well, we don't even want to have to fabricate it and then put it in a test chamber. Let's just model it. And so that's kind of what we're doing is definitely the design and fabrication of electrodes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most difficult challenges that Neuralink or any invasive approach BCI company would have is like a material science challenge, just like being able to design electrodes that are both rigid and flexible, right? I think you need a combo, or you need at least something that is going to be able to stay in the brain in a specific area, and then it's flexible enough to move around while things in the body are moving. Do you think that's correct? I guess that's the
Oh
first
yeah,
question.
for sure. I mean, like
Okay.
the body's like one of the most corrosive environments you can imagine. I mean, I have a friend. He has an Airbnb on Cocoa Beach. You know, he lets us stay there sometime, and
Hmm.
you know, so he's there, and he's like, uh, when we go there, when we all go there, we have to. He changes out, you know, some of the stuff. So he shows us like the door locks, you know, and they disintegrate. And this is from the salty air coming over, you know, over the ocean. And after 6 months or a year, he has to replace like the door locks and the faucets and all this kind of stuff, and that's nothing. That's like literally, so that's like step zero. The body is like, you know, 10 times worse than that, because it also is actively trying to destroy. It's not just like passively like, oh, salty
Sure.
air and water and whatever. No, it's like actively trying to kill whatever is inside of it and trying to destroy it the best way that it can. And so there's very few environments that are more aggressive than that. And you know, you're trying to do something, you're trying to essentially make semiconductors, you're trying to make like microprocessors at this level with something actively trying to kill it, you know, so that this hasn't really been done before. And there are a lot of materials, um, analysis or materials, questions that have to be answered.
So there's a couple of companies that I've started doing company spotlights on, where I've started researching what they're doing, looking into conversations that the CEO has had, discussions that they talk about. One of the ones that I did a deep dive on is a company called Neuralink, and I'm curious if you know anything about what they're working on.
Yeah, I definitely know the name. Oh yeah, yeah, so they do the headphones, right? Okay.
Yeah, they modified like a headset previously.
Okay.
They do like signal processing. So like basically they had an HTC headset, and then they would modify the headset to have some sensors, and then with very very little information that they were getting, they could decode those signals and like just process those. I mean, it was really interesting to see some of the clips because they admit that they're taking very very little information, but the information that they're using, they it makes the person wearing the device feel like it's totally magical.
Yeah, yeah. So this is definitely EEG, on the EEG side of things, and I don't really follow it that much,
Okay.
but I have heard of the company, and I hadn't seen their device, but it's really cool, and I love. I mean, it looks, you know, like it could be consumer, and you could hack your own brain with this and build some kind of smart integration or something like that with it, which would be really cool.
Are you familiar with the company Neosensory?
No.
Okay. They basically have like one of their main products is like a vest, and it has I think 32 different uh, things that will vibrate, um, and basically provide feedback to the user wearing the vest. Like it's basically translating voice and sounds to vibrations on the vest. Yeah. So it helps like deaf people be able to hear and stuff like that. Or not hear, but basically hear.
Yeah, it looks like a bracelet that is, yeah, turning sound into vibrations. That's pretty cool. David Eagleman, I'd love to talk to him. He's you know, big, uh, kind of neurotech explainer in the field. So that's really cool. I think it's awesome. But yeah, again, like this is a bit more like the consumer tech. You know, this is a bit more along the Fitbit line. You know, something you can go to. Well, you could just buy off of Amazon.
Mhm.
That's not what I follow too much. I like it, and I think this will really open up the field and kind of consciousness, the public consciousness, to it. But yeah, no, this is really cool.
Yeah, I guess I should have known just based off of like the name of the podcast too, with like neural implant podcast. But
But we do talk
I,
about a lot about wearable stuff, and I see it. I know that my audience is interested in that, and so I do. Even though like I don't personally know much about it, I, you know, I want to learn too.
gotcha. Um, okay, so how about your take on Neuralink? How many years do you think it'll be until Neuralink has implants available for wide release?
So I heard some speculation. I heard a video today speculating that they could be in human in a year, and then and now is, you know, April 2021. So I guess it'd be April 2022, about that time. And then, before it's like widespread? I honestly don't know, because you kind of have to look at it with different companies and normal med tech companies, and then like an Elon Musk company, because that just moves so much faster, and there's so much money behind it that and it's so not reckless, but like adventurous, or just so you know uh
Yeah, like willing to explore, willing to
willing to
invent. Yeah.
explore. Exactly, that it kind of breaks the paradigm of everything else. So I mean, I don't know, like 5 years or something like this before it's like relatively common, where you know because I know a lot of implantees from BlackRock Microsystems. They've had the implant implanted in their brain and everything like this. There's like a handful. There's like you can count them on one hand. To the point where it's like 1,000 or something like that. I think within 5 years. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow, that would be super cool. What did you think about the newest Neuralink monkey video?
Yeah, the monkey video, I'm just like, man, I wish I could have that smoothie machine giving me smoothies, banana smoothies when I play Pong correctly. I'd be so much better at video games. I loved it. I think it's really good. And it's not so I saw, I've gotten into boxing, and just like, okay, I'm learning how to box, and I'm just still really bad. And I went to my first boxing match, and like saw it to watch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really cool, because they weren't doing anything different. They weren't doing anything like completely revolutionary in the boxing match. It was still the same jabs and everything like this, but the way they did it, and how they implemented it, how they weren't tired, like their stamina and everything like this was just like on another level. So I kind of think this is it's the monkey video is the same thing. It's like, what does perfection look like in this case? And it's kind of approaching that. And if you have kind of a herky jerky beginner version, where it's like me with a boxing, versus like a pro, or somebody who's trained at this for years, you do see a difference, and you see how much smoother it is. But it's not like a completely different game. It's exactly, it's within the same paradigm. It's in the same, it's the same game, but it's not but it's really that much better. So I've seen a lot of other videos that are very, this one was very smooth. All the cursor movement and everything like this, it was very smooth, which shows that they are connecting their reading from, they're sensing a lot of different neurons. And something like the Utah electrode array, which has a 96 electrodes, um, and then of that, maybe 30% are viable. It's much less fluid. It's much less smooth. And so I was very impressed. And I mean, obviously, like they have an order of magnitude more electrodes. So you have an order of magnitude more viable neurons that you're reading from. Like, of course, that's going to be like that. But like, no, I'm impressed. Like, again, I'm impressed. And there's been no Neuralink presentation where I wasn't just like, man, hats off to you guys. Like, really good job. Like, really, really good job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Yeah, because like I guess with me posting that recent video, uh, just kind of giving my take on the Neuralink monkeys and trying to lure people in. It's like I think that's one thing with Neura Pod that I'm trying to do is just get like general public, regular members of society to be at least moderately interested or aware that this technology exists. And then once they've reached that certain level where they're at least interested or at least knowledgeable about like, hey, this thing is out there or this is potentially what's coming, then it might lead them to start looking into things more, learning more about the technology, realizing how important the brain is, and maybe researching it in more depth. But right now, it's like if anybody truly explained all the technical details at the very beginning, I think it would turn off a lot of folks who are just, I don't know, regular members of society, I guess. Um,
Filthy casuals.
yeah, that's pretty accurate, I think.
No,
So,
but you need successes. You need kind of you need points on the board to be able to do that. I mean, up until now, it's been, like I said, like with the BlackRock arrays, it's been a handful. Like, literally,
mhm.
again, you can count on one hand. And so, true that the public might not know about one of a handful of people that have had these implanted, but once it starts being thousands, and once somebody down the street has these implants, like that changes things, and then that becomes a part of public consciousness. um my PI, principal investigator, my professor, like I was blown away a few weeks ago when he hadn't heard about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and everything like that. Like he'd literally never heard of it, and
Oh my gosh.
he's kind of in the know, but at the same time, like just this thing escaped him somehow, and I had to explain it to him. So like that, but that stuff happens all the time, and for me, it's like I know some things in the public consciousness when my mom tells me about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh wow,
Yeah.
how did you hear about it? Like I have no idea how she absorbs information, but like
Uh-huh.
when that happens, that's going to be like, whoa, okay, this is real now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and now with technology and like just the access to information and like the very narrow things that you can start learning about, like it kind of becomes that way. Like um, I think it was last year. Yeah, it must have been during COVID. Uh, there's there's like one year, it was 2019 or 2020. But so last year I realized that like basketball had still continued on after closing down due to COVID. And then they kind of like reopened in this little like bubble in Orlando. Um, but anyway, like apparently hockey was also going on, and I had absolutely no idea. Before, I would have at least been aware that hockey was still happening, but now it's like it's so easy to just be unaware of so many other things that are happening just because everything is so focused now. It's almost
Yeah,
designed that way. Like YouTube and our phones, like all the news and everything is like specifically catered to what you're wanting.
yeah, exactly. And I also try to avoid restaurants or something like that that have the screens with the TVs and everything like this, cable news going, because it's so distracting. It's the flashing lights for me. But yeah, I don't know if you remember, there's a few weeks like all the sports on TV was Korean baseball. That's all you could watch. It's
Sure.
like
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah. 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 That's funny. Well, so earlier today, I saw this video. I think it's from 2008. There was a human that was playing Pong with his mind, no control, no nothing, or no physical controller, just like literally just his mind. And so it goes back to your point, like this has been happening before, but now it's just kind of on another level. Like more people are going to be aware of it. It's a little bit more detailed and controlled, and so that's pretty cool to see. But it will be really nice when somebody can write the headline like Elon Musk company Neuralink uh, implants a chip into human's brain, and human's brain or human can do all sorts of funky things with it. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I don't know how much funky stuff there will be in the beginning. In the beginning, it's definitely going to be rehabilitation, bring somebody back to, normal, like a paralyzed person to walk or something like this. I don't think we're going to have like my example is always flamethrower arms or like laser eyes or something like that. We're not going to have that for a little bit, unfortunately. But that, once, and so with the Elon Musk stuff, it's usually really closed ecosystem. But if it were an open ecosystem, you could definitely get like apps almost, and just be like, hey, this is the dragon app. You become a dragon, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there will be a Neuralink app store in the future. You don't suspect that that'll happen?
No, no, there
Okay.
hasn't been a history of that kind of stuff in the past in these kind of companies, so I don't think so.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you think Neuralink would ever get into prosthetics?
Potentially. So the way I see it is they're coming to eat Medtronic and Boston Scientific's lunch. Deep brain stimulators. I think that there's no reason they couldn't do a deep brain stimulator, which is usually good for Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. Memory implants could be along this addiction. Like there's so many pathways that they could go with this. Very transmittable or like very flexible device. I think it could be flexible in terms of design. You can basically tweak it and have it do whatever. What I really hope, and I don't think they're actually thinking about this, is that they do peripheral nerve stimulation and bioelectronic medicine, vagus nerve stimulation, because I think this could be the real game changer that completely just blows everybody's mind. Um, but yeah, I think they're going to be going after the prosthetics pretty soon, just because it's such an easy thing to explain. Hey, this person that couldn't walk is now walking. Great, boom, everybody understands that. So I think that'll be kind of low hanging fruit, and there's a lot of government money for that too. A lot of defense money, which is very, very good money.
uh, so, what do you think about in the future a human potentially becoming like a cyborg, having two different arm prosthetics in addition to the two like regular arms connected to a Neuralink? Do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, yeah, I think that'll happen. I mean, definitely, like we'll have that kind of stuff. If it's feasible, or if it takes, I think it would take a lot of training for the brain, because the brain's not, wired for that, and it'd be like learning to walk again, and so it'd be hours and hours of learning for that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think that'd be really cool, and I mean, at that point, the sky's the limit. Again, like you can do whatever you want. You could plug into an airplane and just like, I'm the airplane now, like you, and that'd be the really cool thing, is like you could have vehicles or devices or whatever, and you could plug in and just be that thing, instead of like controlling it. Like, no, I feel, oh wait, no, the front left wheel is low and it's kind of wobbling or something like this, or whatever, and you could have much better feedback in terms of what's going on with the body, when it's when you have a whole higher bandwidth sensory input on what's going on. I think it could be really good. But again, like that, designing something to be actually working with that, and to be able to have the body absorb that, the brain absorb that in a logical way, that's going to take some time.
Yeah. Well, I think in the scenario that you presented, like to have a cart that would have four wheels and you can sense like when a wheel's lower, like you would need a sensor on all four wheels, right? To provide that feedback to the, I don't know, computer, I guess, and then, or computer slash human.
Oh, you
But
need
you need
thousands of
all these
sensors.
sensors. Yeah.
Yeah, you need thousands.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just because of there being so many synergies, like I could foresee them getting into prosthetics, just because it seems like the next natural progression for them to take. Oh, can you talk more about your experience at BlackRock Microsystems? You did an internship for 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. I did internship there for 6 months, and then I did another internship with a company in Germany that they were working with. Kind of more on the material side. So I was also there. Uh, that was only 2 months, actually. Sorry, I don't know if I said 6 months for that second one. Um, but yeah, so I was kind of I saw what that looked like, kind of on the engineering side, and got to know the processes and everything like this. And on one hand, it was like, wow, this is so futuristic. This is so amazing. On the other hand, I was like, wow, this is very primitive, caveman, tools. And so that's kind of what's kept my attention for literally that decade since I was over there. Was like, we need to improve this. And I remembered all the problems that they were always talking about. This is like, oh, we gotta solve this glial scarring, and blah blah blah. And so that's just something that's, you might say, was implanted in my brain ever since then. And it's just been something I've been thinking about and trying to solve since then. Even when I didn't have anything to do with the field.
Were you able to speak with anybody at BrainGate while you were at BlackRock?
No, I think that might have been before then. I was there, I think 2012. I don't know when the BrainGate stuff happened. Yeah, later on, I met a lot of the people that were involved in this. 2004, 2006, 2009, 2012. Yeah, so it would have been done by then. But yeah.
Okay. Um, do you have any hints for questions that I should be asking you?
Um, Yeah, I don't know. I have to say, like, when I saw the original, unveiling, because I had known that about Neuralink for basically since I started the podcast, like that was within. I think I started like a month after, and I started for my own reasons. I started the podcast for my own reasons, but it was really exciting to see that Elon Musk was getting into it. Even at that time, it was even less like the cult of Elon Musk, but I was already following him, just like, this is somebody we should be following. So it was pretty good to see that. But when they did that unveiling and then they first, um, I don't know, the kind of explanation of what they've been working on, I was very impressed. And yeah, and especially the material side and the fabrication side. Again, this is my specialty. Like they just checked all the boxes. I mean, the threads, the polyimide threads that they're using to sew into it, it's brilliant, honestly. And from everything that I know on the foreign body response, uh, there's no reason it shouldn't work, and it should last like really really well. Should last for forever, honestly, because what happens is under 8 microns, the body doesn't sense a foreign body. Like, and basically, the narrowest dimension of a object has to be less than 8 microns. So if you have a block or something like that's 8 by 50, then the body probably wouldn't notice it. But what they're doing like 8 by 2. So they're really at the threshold of what's possible, and the body, you know, as far as I know, it's not going to have any issues with it, which is huge. And again, with the BlackRock microsystem stuff, that was the biggest issue, was glial scarring. The body kind of just makes scar tissue around it and just protects it, tries to isolate itself from whatever this foreign body thing. What's going on? We don't know. And so it just kind of isolates itself. And so their electrode readings would drop a lot. And this has been very well documented. Over a year, it'd be like 95% or something like that. Or over the first month, it'd be like 70% of your electrodes are gone. Boom. But based on what I know, about the size and what the body handles and doesn't handle, these Neuralink electrodes could be in forever, and the body would not care at all, and it wouldn't you know mount an attack against it. True, there is the passive stuff, kind of like with my friend, the door handles kind of disintegrating. That will still happen, but at least it's not actively trying to attack it. So it's just very clever. I really like it. I'm a fan.
Thanks for listening. Since you've made it this far, we greatly appreciate your support by liking, subscribing, and following us on all the major social platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you really enjoy our videos, we'd also greatly appreciate your support by clicking the join button down below the video or going to patreon.com/neurapod. Thanks again, and hope you join us again for the next episode.